Okay, let's begin. Good morning. This morning, I'm going to show you one poem by probably it's the greatest poem in German literature. Who is the greatest poet in German literature? Yeah, Goethe. Goethe, right. And he wrote a poem. He was very young. One day he climbed the mountain. From the top of the mountain, he looked down and then wrote a poem. Very good poem. And he wrote this poem and he forgot it. And when he was a very old man, in his 80s, he discovered it, the new poem. And today, critics say that this is the greatest German poem, the greatest lyric, perfect poem. And I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to read it both in English and German, okay? Okay. Actually, we are doing the same thing. We are thinking about the line in a poem. The line is the formation of lines. Very important. So we are going to look at 3 poems by 3 different poets. Last week, we saw a poem by Emily Dickinson and another poet, right? Emily Dickinson and Walt Whitman, right? Today, a poem by William Butler Yeats and Wallace Stevens, and another poet, and also a poem by German poet, Goethe. Okay, let's have a look at the German poem. The title poem is Wondrous Night Song. Wondrous Night Song. Wondrous Nachtlied is the title of 2 poems by the German poet Goethe, written in 1776. And in 1780, Weber Allen Giffelen. They are among the greatest, most famous works. Both were first edited together in his 1815 works, Volume 1, with headings Wondrous Nachtlicht and Ein Gleiches, another one. Okay. The manuscript of Wondrous Night Song was among Goethe's letters to his friend Charlotte von Stein. Actually, Goethe forgot it and put it in the between the leaves of it. Charlotte von Stein and bears the signature at the top of Edinburgh on 12th February 1976. Supposedly it was written under the tree, later called the Goethe Oak. One translation by Longfellow. Longfellow is the 19th century American poet. This is the translation. Thou that from the heavens art, every pain and sorrow stilled. Can you understand? Thou, meaning you who are from the heavens. There's inversion here. Thou that art from the heavens. You that you are from heaven. Every pain and sorrow stilled. Still, verb, right? Is a verb. The doubly rushed heart, filled, right? Filled. Doubly with refreshment filled. I'm weary with contending. I'm weary with contending. Why this pain and desire? Peace descending, come, come, peace descending, come into my breast. This is the song. The German version is, okay, I'll skip. The tired wanderer probably impersonates Goethe himself, whose fame and fortune increasingly affect his creativity. The first line is a reference to the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven. Franz Schubert, the composer, Schubert, set the poem to music in 1815. And the next song is the greatest German poem. Wondrous Night Song 2 wondrous nice song. Two, Weber Allen Gefallen is often considered perhaps the most perfect lilig in the German language. In the German language, right? Not in German literature, right? Probably, Goethe probably wrote it on the evening of September 6, 1780, onto the wall of wooden gamekeeper lodge on top of the Kickelhahn mountain near Limenau, where he, according to a letter to Charlotte von Stein, spent the night. And there's a picture here, right? Cabin where Goethe wrote the poem. The translation is, it's beautiful. Above all summits, it is calm. In all the treetops, you feel scarcely a breath. The birds in the forest are silent. Just wait. Soon you will rest as well. Beautiful, right? You like it, right? The German is better, I think. Weber Allen Gefallen ist Ruhe. In Allen Gefallen spürst du kaum einen Hauch. Die Vögelein schweigen im Walde, warte nur balde, rust du auch. Here you can be rhyming, beautiful rhyming. The first line, Gefallen. Second line ends with Ruhe. Third line, Gefallen. Fourth line, du. And Hauch, Walde, Walde, balde. Hauch, auch. Rhyming, right? So. Goethe's friend Karl Ludwig von Knebel mentioned the writing in his diary. It is also documented in transcription by Herder and Gerhausen. However, the handwriting is not preserved. It was first published without authorization by Hennings in 18 and again by Coetzee B. in 1803. An English version, apparently in the Monthly Magazine in February 1801. The second poem was also set by Schubert, set to music, right, by Schubert in 1823. As Goethe wrote to Schelter, he revised the cabin more than 50 years later, revisited the cabin more than 50 years later on August 27, 1831, about 6 months before his death. The poet recognized his handwriting and reportedly broke out in tears. The accomplished poem unites landscape, creation, and beings in evening silence, while man may still be restless, but will expect sleep, death, eternal peace. In one small piece of poetry, Goethe wanders the whole cosmos. The second poem is very beautiful, right? Let's go back to the second point. Above all summits, it is calm. In all the treetops, you feel scarcely a breath. The birds in the forest are silent. Just wait, soon you will rest as well. What does it mean? You will die too, right? Eventually. Do you like it? Okay, so this morning we will begin with a silent poem, very, very quiet poem. It is a poem by Wallace Stevens. Wallace Stevens is probably the greatest 20th century American poet. T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, The Wasteland is best known. Is I think Wallace Stevens is much better than T.S. Eliot. And one of his most famous poems is The Snowman. Snowman, very short poem, but this is beautiful. The whole poem is one single sentence, but the line breaking is beautiful. Okay, let's see, okay? Okay, The Snowman. One must have a mind of winter to regard the frost and the boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow, and have been cold a long time to behold the junipers shagged with ice The spruces laugh in the distant glitter of the January sun, and not to think of any misery in the sound of wind, in the sound of a few leaves, which is the sound of land, full of the same wind that is blowing in the same bare place. For the listener who listens in the snow, nothing himself beholds nothing that is not there, the nothing that is. This is one single sentence. Amazing, right? And look at the line breaking also. One must have mind of winter. One perfect sentence, right? So it's kind of what? And stopped, right? And stopped line. One must have a mind of winter. Two, in order to regard the frost, to see the frost, and the boughs of trees, the boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow. So it's winter, covered with snow crust, right? And semicolon. What does it mean? The sentence is not over, it continues, right? It means it continues, semicolon. And have been cold a long time. Okay, have been cold. Which one the subject? One. One has been cold a long time, but there is a what? Auxiliary verb, must. One must have been cold a long time. One, stanza 2, one must have been cold a long time. What? Same structure. In order to, right? To behold the junipers. Same structure. To regard the frost. To behold the junipers, right? Junipers. Shagged with ice. Shaggy dog, shagged with ice. Behold the junipers. And then behold what? The spruces laugh in the distant glitter of January sun. The spruces laugh in the distant glitter of the January sun. Look at the line break. In the distant glitter of the January sun. Right? But it's a kind of what? End line. Right? Glitter of the January sun. And not to think, in order to think, but not to think of any misery in the sound of wind. Any misery in the sound of wind. Have you heard the sound of wind? The winter wind? The sound of wind. In the sound of a few leaves, it's winter and there are only a few leaves left on the branch, right? Which meaning what? The sound. The sound of wind, which is the sound of land. Sound of land. What kind of land is it? Land that is full of the same wind. The sound of land that is full of the same wind. What kind of wind? The wind that is blowing in the same bare place. Well, which place? For the listener. For the listener. For the listener. Who? The listener who listens in the snow, and nothing himself, being nothing himself, beholds nothing that is not there. And the nothing that is. Beholds nothing that is not there, and beholds the nothing that is. Very philosophical. Can you write this kind of point? I think you can, right? Okay, good. And there is another poem by the greatest poet, English poet, the greatest poet in English language, William Butler Yeats, right? We are going to read the poem, Second Coming. Very powerful poem. The second coming. The second, who is coming? The second coming. The first coming, the second coming. What does it mean? Jesus Christ, right? The second coming. The second coming. Turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack of conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely, some revelation is at hand. Surely, the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out when the vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in sands of desert, a shape with lion body and the head of man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its low thighs, while all about it real shadows of indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches toward Bethlehem to be born. Very powerful, right? Okay. Back to the stanza, first stanza. Turning and turning in the widening gyre. Who is turning? Which one is turning? The bird, right? Turning and turning in the widening gyre. The bird is flying away, making a circle, right? The falcon, right? The falcon. The falcon cannot hear the falconer because he's going away, right? Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. And then the sentence is over, right? It connected with the semicolon and stop line. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. What do you hear? What do you see here? The principle of short lines, right? How many short lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 short sentences. What does it mean? A sport of emotion, right? Movement, powerful, violence, right? Things fall apart. He's talking about the current situation of the world, right? Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed. Blood-dimmed, what does it mean? Murder. Killing. A lot of killing took place. So the blood-dimmed tide, river, right, is loosed. And everywhere, the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Okay, look at the rhyme scheme. It's more regular. In a gyre, falconer hold, world, everywhere, drowned, the worst intensity. Gyre, of falconer, hold world, everywhere, drowned, the worst intensity. Surely, some revelation is at hand. Some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. Emphasis, right? Rephrasing, right? The second coming, very effective, right? He repeats the same thing 3 times, right? Some revelation, the second coming, the second coming. But the sentence becomes the shortest. When he said it, when he say it for the 3rd time, it's the shortest, right? Surely some revelation is at hand. What revelation? Lowercase, right? In the first line, is simply the speaker says some revelation, and then in the second stanza, he clarifies it. What kind of revelation? The second coming, right? And then 3rd sentence, It's not a sentence, right? The second coming, right? Very strong, right? So surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out. Hardly are those words out. As soon as those words are spoken, suddenly what? A vast image come out of Spiritus Mundi. Spiritus Mundi, world spirit. Right? Spiritus Mundi, a vast image troubles my sight. Troubles my sight. Something comes out of it, right? Somewhere in sands of desert, somewhere in the sands of desert, a shape of lion body, shape with lion body and head of man. What is it? Yeah, right. A shape of lion body and a shape with the head of man. What kind of look is it? A gaze blank, a blank gaze. Human, right, with the lion body. And it gazes beyond the horizon, right? A gaze blank. And a gaze, what kind of gaze is it? Pitiless, without pity. It does not show any pity, right? A gaze, pitiless as the sun, as pitiless as the sun, is moving. The subject, which one is subject? A shape is moving. Right? A shape is moving. A shape with lion body and the head of man, a gaze, with a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving a slow thighs. Slow thighs moving, walking slowly. While all about the shape, real. Shadows of indignant desert birds, real. The verb is inversion, right? Reversed. Shadows of the indignant desert birds, real. Real. In the first stanza, turning and turning white and Gaia. And real, the same thing, right? Real, the shadows of the indignant desert birds, real. Real shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, and then short sentences are repeated, right? The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep, 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle, And what beast? And what rough beast? And the verb is in the last line, slashest toward Bethlehem to be born. Okay, what rough beast? It's our come round at last. It's our coming round at last. What rough beast slouches towards Bethlehem to be born? What do you think? Very complex point, right? It's not that simple, right? Very beautiful. Second coming. Okay. Do you know Kim So-wol? Kim So-wol? Okay, Korean poet, right? We've looked at German poet Goethe, and the greatest English poet William Butler Yeats, and the greatest American poet Wallace Stevens, and who is the greatest Korean poet? Of course, Kim So-wol, right? Okay. Okay, actually, the translation is mine. My translation. I don't think it's possible to translate this poem, right? It is almost impossible to translate Kim So-wol's poems, right? Only Koreans can enjoy it, right? But I hope the translation good enough for English speakers. Anyway, the Korean, the title of the poem is 산요화, right? Mountain flowers. And the poem is in the original words as written by Kim So-wol, right? 산에는 꽃 피네, 꽃이 피네, 꽃이 피네, 꽃이 피네가 is different, right? 꽃이 피네. 가을, 봄, 여름 없이 꽃이 피네. 산에 피는 꽃은 저만치 혼자서 피어 있네. 산에서 우는 작은 새요, 꽃이 좋아 산에서 사노라네. 산에는 꽃지네, 꽃이 지네. 가을, 봄, 여름 없이 꽃이 지네. Very beautiful. Can you feel something? Yeah, all of us has a very calm but a very powerful feeling, warming your heart, right? Can you translate it? No, it's possible. It's impossible. But my translation: flowers bloom on the mountain. Flowers bloom in spring, summer, and autumn. Flowers bloom. The flower blooming there on this mountain is alone. Over there, little bird, do you live on this mountain because you love the flower? Flowers fall on the mountain. Flowers fall in spring, summer, and autumn. Flowers fall. It's kind of different. First line: flowers bloom. Flowers bloom. On the mountain, flowers bloom. I repeat it. Bloom, bloom. Flowers bloom on the mountain, flowers bloom. In spring, summer, and autumn, flowers bloom. Kind of similar, right? The flower blooming there on this mountain is lone. Over there, there, right? Little bird, do you live over this mountain because you love that flower? Flowers fall on the mountain. Flowers fall, fall, fall. Spring, summer, and autumn, flowers fall, again fall. Close, right? Do you feel closer, right? Flowers fall on the mountain. Flowers fall in spring and summer and autumn. Flowers fall. Beautiful. Good translation. What do you think? Okay. We'll take a 10-minute break.